And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting and Work Session for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. If you would like to join in by conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the PIN is 1234. Welcome, and I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Messer. And we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. We have our PHSS Director Shelley Slaughter in the house, and our County Health Officer Dr. Demiana Abdemalik, or Dr. A. I also saw Megan Porter, our PIO, and I don't know who else I might be missing on the screen or in the room. Ramiro.
We have the clerk of the board, Amy Davis, and we have some members of the public attending this morning.
Okay, wonderful. So with that, we're going to begin with a COVID-19 update. And Shelley.
Good morning, commissioners. For data as of yesterday afternoon, statewide, there's 71,371 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 1,867 deaths. Here in Thurston County, we've had 936 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 71 of those occurring in this last week. 724 people have been released from public health quarantine or isolation. 54 have done so in the last week. To date, 59 Thurston County residents have been hospitalized for COVID-19. In the last week, there's been one new admission. Unfortunately, we've had 12 deaths in Thurston County, with one of those deaths occurring in the last week, a male in his 70s related to one of our most recent outbreaks. Our current test positivity rate is 4.2%, with 1,901 tests occurring over this last week. Our case rate in Thurston County, per the governor's risk assessment dashboard for phase 3 counties, is 51.4. Our target is less than 25 per 100,000. Our current hospitalization data indicates that 70.6% of beds in Thurston County are currently occupied, with 14 COVID positive patients hospitalized, although not all from Thurston County. PPE and testing supplies are currently stable, and our lab processing time is reported to be within normal range, about 48 hours. We are investigating 3 outbreaks this week. We have a total of 7 that we are also following, with 9 to date. Our most recent outbreak has been related to the Thurston County Jail, where we sent out a team to do testing last week, identifying as of yesterday 3 staff and 8 inmates who have tested positive for COVID-19. We're working closely with the Thurston County Sheriff's Office to control this outbreak. We expect the final results today from our first round of testing, and we'll conduct testing again tomorrow. And that concludes my report. And Dr. Abdemalik and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Menser, any questions?
No questions, just a comment that, because I had some questions from the community about the jail outbreak, and what Shelley indicated about working with jail was very true and resulted in a very kind of detailed document that Dr. Abdemalik generated, and I was appreciative of seeing that, and just letting the public know that there's significant collaboration to try to deal with this appropriately, and I appreciate their work on that. And if folks need to see that and kind of know what's going on, and we can show it to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards in the room.
Of course, well, thank
Do
you.
you have any questions?
No, sir.
Shelley, my question regarding the jail, you say there's 3 staff and 8 inmates that have tested positive, and you're waiting for the results. How many staff have we tested? How many inmates have we tested? And how many results are we awaiting results on?
Well, I can answer that.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
No worries. So far, we've conducted 359 tests. All staff have been tested. There are 2 outstanding tests from inmates that we're awaiting results on.
So we're just waiting 2 inmate results, and we're not awaiting any staff tests.
No, not at this time.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, good. Thank you very much. All right.
Could I add a comment?
Yes, please.
Commissioner? I know that Shelley and Dr. Abdimalik provided the raw numbers in terms of the outbreak at the jail, but I'd like to highlight the strike team from Public Health and Social Services. As soon as we learned that it was an inmate that tested positive, the strike team from Public Health went to work. And that is how you see the numbers in terms of the number of testings that we conducted and how they have been able to manage this very complex situation. So kudos to the strike team at Public Health and Social Services.
Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I saw over the weekend that PHSS, you're still hiring or looking for contact tracers.
Yes, we
correct?
are. Yes, we have several open positions still for those that are interested in supporting our COVID-19 response, and that's available on our Thurston County website.
So please, if you're interested in doing that, please get online and contact PHSS. Thank you. And thank you, Doctor, for joining us today. And we're going to move on to homeless strategies now. Is Keely Marino with us? Yay!
Hi.
Different glasses. Good morning, Keely, again.
Old ones, they were found. Miracles do happen. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Good morning to you. Have some updates. First and foremost, an update on the eviction and rental assistance prevention program grant. As of yesterday, we went live. Community Action Council has already scheduled 77 appointments within the first day. So I think we will not have a difficulty spending down the grant because there's quite a need for rental assistance and eviction protection at this time. We posted a flyer yesterday to our county website, and we've sent that same flyer to the Department of Commerce to have it created in Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean. So if anyone out there is listening and would like to know the number in which to make an appointment with Community Action Council for the ERAP program, that number is 360-438-1100. And then you press 8 for the housing department and then 7 for the ERAP specific line. And you can get an appointment with Community Action Council. In other news, I spoke with my counterpart at the City of Olympia, Teal Russell, and as of yesterday, all of the vehicles along Deschutes Parkway have moved on in order for the Department of Enterprise Services, DOT, and Washington State Patrol to complete their construction project that's going on down there at Deschutes Parkway. According to Teal Russell, it sounds like some of those vehicles that did move to Ensign and also to the west side, and I'm not quite sure where on the west side, but that some have been identified having moved to the west side of Olympia. And then the City of Olympia worked on Monday with the residents of the Wheeler encampment, and they removed 60 yards of garbage with them and also put in a water spigot for the supported encampment at Nickerson. So that's about it.
Keely, the rental assistance eviction funding, is there sufficient funds to help people through? For example, you said there's 77 applications. Depending on what the need is there sufficient monies to help these folks?
Yes, we have approximately $3.1 million to distribute.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Messer, any questions or comments for Keely? All right, Keely, thank you very much for joining us. We're now going to move on to review the draft agenda for this afternoon, the meeting of August 25th, 2020. And we reviewed this extensively last week. So this is an additional review before this afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Vice Chair Commissioner Menser. approval of the agenda for this afternoon and the board meeting minutes from last week. And then number 1 on the agenda is the opportunity for the public to address the board. Ramiro, do you have any information regarding that?
Yeah, I'm sure you received some public testimony this afternoon. I really don't know any particular item that is outstanding, but yeah.
Okay, and we'll give the admonishment again about no electioneering, past or present or future. That's not appropriate.
We'll walk through the rules of engagement this afternoon. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any idea what might be coming in public comment wise? Gary?
No, sir.
Okay, Ty, nothing?
No.
Okay. Then we move on to item number 2 on the agenda, the county manager's update.
I don't have any specific follow-up from any citizen that have provided testimony for you.
Okay. Agenda item number 3 is the consent items A through E, and we'll start with 3A, and that's the Emergency Management Performance Grant for COVID-19.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You reviewed this item last week, and this particular item for your considerations to accept the grant, the Emergency Management Performance Grant related to the COVID-19 supplemental budget. And this is for the amount of $43,778. This particular grant is slated for the preparedness and response development of tools and strategies for prevention, preparedness, and response, and ongoing communication and coordination among federal, state, local, tribal, and territories partners throughout this region. This particular proposal also requests for an additional 10% and authorize the Director of Emergency Services to sign that contract. And I believe Kurt Harding is here if you'd like to ask him any additional questions.
Thank you. Kurt, do you have anything to add to Ramiro's presentation?
Only that this grant is a little bit different than the typical COVID CARES Act funding because it came down through Department of Homeland Security. So therefore, the end date on this one was the December 31st of 2021, which is a little bit of a different time frame than the previous and then the current CARES Act funding that we have received or the county's received. That's the only other update I would provide.
Okay. Commissioner Minster, any questions or comments?
No.
Gary, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
All right, Kurt, thank you very much. 3B, Public Works, member appointment to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Yes, you receive an application for you to consider appointing Mr. Chad Sutter to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. As a matter of background, pursuant to RCW 70.95, 165 parentheses 3, each county is required to establish a local solid waste advisory committee, also known as the SWAC committee, to assist in the development of programs and policies concerning solid waste handling and disposal. The Board of County Commissioners has the authority to appoint members of to the SWAC committee under Thurston County Code 8.22.030. Committee members must include one commissioner of or their representative, one elected official from all the jurisdictions, including the municipalities, and also a solid waste management plan through the signed agreement is one of the purposes in which the SWAC committee will see their purpose. Also included in the membership is a member from the Port of Olympia, one member represented private business, one member represented collection company, and one member representing the recycling industry, as well as one from the agricultural side of the business. This particular appointment is aligned to the recycling industry representative. And again, I believe you reviewed the application of Mr. Chad Sutter, and this is for you to consider the appointment. They will go from August 2020 to August 2023. Have any questions?
Thank you. And this is a reappointment of Chad Sutter. And so,
And
Gary, any questions or
Commissioner
comments?
Edwards sits on the board, so he can provide additional perspective.
Gary, any questions or comments?
No, sir. Good to go on that.
All right. Ty?
Just making clear, I think we made it clear last week that there's no other applicants that were seeking that spot, correct?
Yeah, good clarification. We have not received any additional applications on this.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, very good. 3C on the agenda is the, from the assessor, that's a reclassification of a position.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, this is for you to consider reclassifying an appraisal assistant position to a senior appraisal position. And we have been discussing this item, and this is a larger plan from the assessor has in his office. And this is the main objective of this classification. This is the first one. You will see a couple more, maybe in a couple of weeks, is he's trying to maximize the experience that he has within his own unit, his own office, and promote those individuals that have already gained experience, because the need of his office is a little higher classification. At the end of the plan the assessor has, it will end up having a vacant position, which that's the end result. You lifted the hiring freeze for this position, and this is, again, one of the, I believe, the first step of the 3 that might be coming up for your consideration. This particular reclassification results in the increase in salary from $4,650 a month to $5,935 a month. That will be just about $1,285 a month, with 27% increase. The assessor at this point is not asking for any budget adjustment. He can absorb this. Because again, at the end, he will end up with a vacant position, which doesn't have any impacts on the budget.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would just add that Assessor Stephen Drew is artfully working through his budget, as he typically does. Commissioner Mensah, any questions or comments?
No?
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. That takes us to 3D, Human Resources, a resolution allowing coronavirus-related distributions.
Yes, sir. The county has 3 participating, what we call 457 deferred compensation plans. And that is the Mass Mutual, formerly known as Hartford Nationwide, which is the National Association of Counties, and the ICMA Retirement Corporation. And this organization provides services to county employees who would like to contribute on their own to tax-free for future retirements. Most of us use these funds to, having a little bit of extra money while we're retired. But it has come to our attention, and the CARES Act, the federal act, acknowledge that perhaps each individual may have, some of the individuals who are participating in this program may have the need to access those funds. In this particular proposal, as for you to consider, allows to access those funds on a very limited time that will go from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2021, I believe. And has a maximum of any participant can take up to $100,000 to withdraw out of the 557 deferred compensation. But it has to be specific, related to an impact related to the COVID-19 emergency. So this is not an opening for an employee to use this somewhat of a checking account. This is my words. So this is, again, allows the federal government allow for those programs to be open in a certain time. For those employees who have been affected by the COVID-19, they can access their own accounts with certain limits. This is not an impact to the county. The county does not contribute any dollar related to these deferred compensations. And again, this is employee-driven programs, and some employees, they have those accounts if they need to be. So, any questions on that?
Yes, you refer, or the motion says, or the action refers to an interim basis, and you said a certain time frame. What is that time frame?
It will be from December 31st, 2020 to December 31st, it's the year of 2020, January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. And that is the limited time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Mensah? Oh, good. 3E, Auditors, Financial Services. We'll get to that. I trust my seatmates have reviewed that. Any questions regarding the voucher list?
No.
No, okay. Takes us to agenda item number 4. First is the commissioners, and that's 4A, extended interlocal agreement for Comcast franchise.
Yeah, commissioners, I'm gonna speak on both items 4A and 4B, because those two are related.
Okay,
And those are related to the negotiations that we have with Comcast to negotiate a new franchise agreement. And it has been a long road. It will continue to have those negotiations. Yesterday, I got an update from Megan, who is representing the county on among all the many jurisdictions that perhaps we're going to see a franchise agreement before the end of this year, which is great news. So related to this particular item 4A, is we have a interlocal agreement with the many jurisdictions because we have partnered as to how we're going to be negotiating the terms of this franchise agreement with this very large utility that is Comcast. So having a regional approach makes sense. I think we can get a lot more value, and perhaps we have a lot more influence in the terms and conditions of the Comcast franchise agreement, and that is the intent of this interlocal agreement. So item 4A extends the existing local agreement through December 31st, 2020. In item 4B, extends the professional services, which we have secured the legal services for Kissinger and Philman. That's the attorneys, they have represented the region in the negotiations with the franchise agreement with Comcast. And again, item 4B extends that contract as well as increasing the cost with the consultant. And the amount that you see in there is going to be split among all the many different jurisdictions, which includes the county, City of Olympia, City of Lacey, and City of Tumwater. And Robin is available to answer any questions you may have.
thank you. Robin, anything to add? Okay, Commissioner Mensah?
No, I'm okay.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do. I have a question, and this representation is with the concurrence of our county prosecutor, is that right?
Oh, yeah, so thank you, that is correct. Yeah, and in fact, one of our prosecuting attorneys is the legal liaison with this particular firm.
Thank you.
Very good. 4C, COVID-related offsite court operations space.
So let me take you back a couple months ago when the county received $15.7 million related to the COVID-19 as a result of the CARES funding. Within that context, the board authorized just about $1.3 million to look for an outside satellite courtroom to serve the needs of district and superior courts. As you know, the current courtrooms doesn't allow to practice public health social distancing, and that becomes a very difficult issue for the courts to conduct their business. At this point, they are not conducting any jury trials, but they're planning to start that maybe in the next month or so. So as soon as the board authorized this particular proposal, staff started working with the stakeholders, district court, superior court, as well as the correction office to find a suitable place that is outside of the county to allow for social distancing and conduct the jury trials. The result of that exercise is we found a location here, a couple blocks away from here, is 2404 Chandler Court Southwest here in Olympia, and it's just about 21,300 square feet. And that that is a buy-in and with the stakeholders. And again, there's going to be some tenant improvements going to be required, as well as some IT installations. And also we'll have to pay for the move of all the offices that was additional staffing. All that is going to be covered by the CARES money, which has a deadline of October 31st, 2020 of this year, this year. The risk that I outlined this to you last week was this particular proposal puts the county on a lease agreement for the next 2 years. The lease agreement has a total cost of $468,000 the first year, with a 3% escalation on the second year. At this point, if the CARES money doesn't have any flexibility to extend the time in which we can spend, then it's going to be an impact to the general fund. But I do believe that we're going to be just about making every single effort to eliminate or maybe minimize the impacts to the general fund. But as I stated last week, this is something that I believe we need to continue on to provide the services to the courts, because absent this, they will not be able to conduct jury trials when they're ready to be. And as you heard from both presiding judges, the backlog of those cases are mounting. So I believe we need to support that effort and at least trying to do something that will alleviate the backlog. And again, this is for your consideration is for you to approve a 2-year lease with MGR Development for the total cost of $468,000 the first year, with a 3% escalation in the second year.
Romero, this morning I had a meeting with the presiding judge, Eric Price, and to discuss this. And you said the expected completion date, did you say end of October?
Well, for the tenant improvements.
For the tenant improvements?
We're hoping to be before the October 31st. Yes.
Okay, and so is he.
Yeah.
They begin they're beginning jury trials coming up on August 31st, on Monday. And they'll be using existing services or facilities here on campus to work through that. But they were hoping to get something sooner than the end of October.
Yeah, and last week, Commissioner Edwards asked the question, what is the sense of urgency related to this item? And their sense of urgency is exactly what you stated, Commissioner Hutchins, is absent having a lease agreement, we will not be able to start the tenant improvements and yet meet the deadline of October 31st. So from my point of view, time is of the essence.
And Chris Hemler is with Central Services. He's managing this, or project manager?
Yeah, he's helping us on the whole process in identifying the site. And again, we explore many sites on the west side. We just explore just about every single open building in the county. And it just happened we have a nearby building that is currently vacant that doesn't need too much of a tenant improvements. And yet we're going to be able to meet the needs of both courts. And Robin is available to add any additional information.
Okay, and I would hope that, well, Pam Hartman-Byer's on vacation this week, but that she's in contact with the representing the court with Chris and whomever else needs to be involved to make sure that everything is done right up front according to Hoyle, so according to their needs, within reason, of course. Robin, did you have anything to add before I get to my seatmates?
Just that we've been working very closely with Superior Court, District Court, the clerk, corrections, all of the stakeholders to make sure that what we have is everything they need within the budget that we have. So, and we're moving this project as quickly as we possibly can.
Good, thank you for that. Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I didn't hear anything referred to as far as Superior Court being required to have court within the city limits. So we can't go to Hawks Prairie and rent a building or something like that. Did you mention that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner. Superior Court needs to conduct court services within the municipal boundaries of the county seat that will be within the city of Olympia.
So I guess I'm just pointing out that that restricts our ability to find, say, another location outside the municipality.
Correct.
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Menser?
I support this for various reasons. I guess I would ask my seatmates, whether or not I'm out of town, and whether I was gonna be zooming in this afternoon for the board meeting was sort of dependent on this item. If my seatmates intend to support it, then I do not intend to appear this afternoon. So if you'd be willing to share your intended vote.
Yeah, but I will appreciate if you don't cast your vote this morning. The vote will be this afternoon, but I think it will be a good conversation that you can engage just to determine where each commission sits in on this.
I just wondered if Commissioner Edwards' concerns from last week have been satisfied.
Yes, everything has been verified, sir, and I'll be voting in favor of this.
Thanks, sir.
Well, I'll withdraw my thumbs up at this point. All right, thank you. Enjoy your time off, Commissioner.
Thank you.
That takes us to Central Services, agenda item number 5, bid awards for Emergency Service Center HVAC.
Yeah, you reviewed this item maybe 4 weeks ago, where staff asked the board to authorize going to a bid process. And this is a project to replace the TCOM 911 Emergency Services Center located along Pacific Avenue, which is going to be replacing the heating, ventilation, air conditioner unit that has outlasted his life expectancy. There was a couple conversations, I believe, from Commissioner Minzer, whether the new system will be energy efficient, and you heard from the staff that is the intent, to replace an old system with a more efficient system. On August 10, 2020, we received 2 bids, and the apparent low bidder is Crescent Mechanical Incorporated of Auburn, Washington. The low bid was $290,985. And the staff is asking for you to consider awarding the contract not to exceed $350,171.35, which includes the bid, the base bid, the sales tax, and as well as a 10% contingency to address unknown items during construction. This is funded by the building reserve and is already allocated in the 2020 budget.
Commissioner Minzer, any questions or comments?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I have a comment. I think it's appropriate that we maintain the buildings that we have. This is a good example of that. But I would like to point out for the viewing public, as they watch this agenda setting meeting, many of the answers that have come maybe from myself and Commissioner Minzer's no questions and such, that's because we have went over all of these items several times in the past, and staff has done an excellent job on presenting that information. And I believe that's why we don't have a lot of questions at this point in time. So just wanted to point that out.
Well, thank you. And before you arrived at the beginning of this meeting, I stated that we've gone over this extensively last week. So,
Yes.
so the public is aware of that. Thank you. Number 6 on the agenda is CPED, Community Planning and Economic Development. 6A is acceptance of the Puget Sound Energy Conservation easement.
Yeah, and if I may, before I get into this item, is just to follow up on Commissioner Edwards' comment, and that's really is intended, is for the viewing public to understand the commission's just on rubber stamp any particular item. You review these items, you have many questions, staff responds to those questions, and in some instances, the board has decided they want to remove any particular items from the agenda. So this is, I believe, a well-vetted process. And everything is live stream, Zoom, YouTube, so the public can access any conversations that you may have on this. So,
Thank you.
item 6A.
Yes.
This is okay. This is related to the Habitat Conservation Plan, and so any particular citizen at this point, in this case is Puget Sound Energy, who would like to conduct any type of improvements on areas where they have identified as a potential pocket gopher habitat. At this point, they have a couple of options. We go through a review, which is 2 visits within a year. If those 2 visits results in evidence of no species being found, then a developer, a property owner can move forward with their plans and start the development. The next step will be if during those 2 visits, staff has found evidence of the existence of a species, then the property owner or developer has 2 options. One is to wait until the county secures a habitat conservation plan, which you're well aware where we are in that process. And the other avenue they have is to pursue their own habitat conservation plan with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. You have seen a couple of citizens, in the past, they have taken that option. The result of that process is a mitigation measure. And the mitigation measure requires us to set aside an easement, a conservation easement that has to be held in perpetuity. And one of the conditions the U.S. Fish and Wildlife states to those individuals who would like to develop, those easements needs to be held in perpetuity by the third party. And the third party in this case is the county. This particular proposal is related to the Puget Sound Energy. And they have set aside easements close to 70.41 acres across 13 different parcels. And through that process, when the county and the board accepts those easements in perpetuity, there has to be a compensation because on a yearly basis, the staff has to go out, has to do a field review, and has to write a report just to make sure the intended purpose of that easement is still in place. So in this case, Puget Sound Energy will be paying the county $1,194 a year. In addition, that's the base fee. And also they'll be charging $199, will be charged $199 a month. That is the staff's plus all the benefits for any additional items and activities they would need to do related to those easements. So, and again, this item is for you to consider accepting those easements. And so Puget Sound Energy can go ahead and start conducting their business on those parcels. Chris Chapeau is here and to answer any additional questions that perhaps that I missed.
Chris, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Romero covered it very well.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments?
Covered it last week. I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Great. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Yep.
6B, service agreement with the city of Tumwater regarding our hydrogeologist.
Yeah, and this particular item, I guess, is a little bit of a satisfaction for me, and that is when outside jurisdiction see the value the county staff has. In this particular case, we have a professional is the county hydrologist, which is right there. And what this particular proposal is, the city of Tumwater has requested services from the county hydrologist to provide some reviews on some of the documents related to hydrology and within their jurisdiction. This is an instrument in which we can have a financial transaction between the county and the city of Tumwater. And there will be a fee-based service. For every hour the county hydrologist spends on any reviews, we'll be charging $199 an hour. And again, that's the base rate. That includes salaries as well as benefits to any potential services that we provide. Jennifer Davis is not here, but Mr. Hansen is available if you have any questions.
I don't see Kevin.
Do I see Kevin?
Yeah, actually, it's Mr. Beaver who's present for Kevin.
Oh, geez.
And
your picture's a little dark, so I thought it was, okay.
I'm in a cave here.
So introduce yourself and then if you have anything to add, please add.
I'm Mark Beaver. I'm with the Water Hazard Data Services Group under community planning. So I'm sitting in for Jennifer Davis, not quite as charming, but yeah, this is an agreement that the city of Tumwater requested from Kevin Hansen, the hydrogeologist. It's a little bit rare, but so he's done the review work. Part of the review work, we have the agreement through December 31st in case there's any additional work that they require.
Thank you for joining us, Mark. I appreciate it. And you seem to be very charming.
Thank you.
I would just, to complement what Romero just said, I would say it's very complimentary to, we've got some exceedingly smart people, brilliant people working for the county, and have other jurisdictions look to using their services and their intelligence is very complimentary. So I appreciate all that you folks do over there. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
No, sir. Well covered.
Okay, Commissioner Menser.
No, just to say that this is a project that my understanding is it's a largish project in Tumwater, but very close to the county border. So it makes sense that I'm glad to see that we're collaborating to make sure that we're minimizing impacts of the project, and hopefully, we get some good result out of that collaboration.
Go ahead. Is that it?
Yeah.
And a very wise move on Tumwater's part. Mark, thank you very much. And we're going to move on to agenda item number 7, IT, setting a public hearing for the IT security performance audit.
So this is a brand new item for your agenda this afternoon. So you did not review this item last week. So let me give you some perspective on that. Back in 2019, Thurston County IT department engaged with the Washington State Auditor's Office to review the county's technology security. The State Auditor's Office staff work with county staff, IT staff, to review the policies, procedures, practices, and architecture as it relates to security and the county IT systems and networks. The process has been completed now as a result of this IT audit. It was extremely comprehensive. Staff was working very hard just to make sure that any items that they found we have been able to address. And the last step in the process of this this audit report, since the state attorney, the auditor's office provides those services for free at no cost to the county, they like to have a public hearing for the public to have the opportunity to see the results in the findings of this audit report. So this is really the last step in the process, is for you to consider setting a public hearing for September 15, 2023 in the afternoon in this room, for you to perhaps receive public testimony related to this audit report before the board considers adopting it. Dennis, our Osorio, our IT director, is here if you have any questions.
First, I'll turn to Robin Campbell, the Assistant County Manager and Director. Go ahead, Finance Director.
I just have a question, though, not a comment or any type of clarification. It seems like IT security performance audit that is something that we would want to keep confidential. So I'm curious why the state auditor would recommend that there be a public hearing on their findings.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have gone over that a couple of times. Dennis?
That was my first thought. Go ahead, Dennis.
Dennis Osorio, IT Director. So it will be discussed at a very high level. There will be no details, no specific findings, no operational security things will be discussed there. But it is part of how it is funded from public money that they do have to have. This is how they close it out for all the local governments that they do this audit for. And then if there's more questions after that, we can have an executive session if we need to go from there if we want to have more details.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that was my concern as well. When we've talked about camera security around the campus, we don't advertise where our weaknesses are either. We don't tell the bad guys the information they want to know. So thank you for that, Robin.
And I believe some of the findings of this performance audit, they have already been addressed to the most part through the work with IT staff. Is that correct?
Yes, Romero, that is correct. Over the last year, we've closed a significant amount of all of the findings, as far as some of them were just configuration changes that we were able to move and just trying to get with more up-to-date standards and frameworks. It's just like everything with IT security, that's a constant battle. You're never going to be 100%. So we'll continue to to work away at that, but it'll just be discussing some of that, some of the efforts that we put forward and some of the standards that we're trying to align with.
So without jeopardizing or compromising anything, but to be remaining transparent, this shows that we're on top of these issues.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Mensah, anything, sir?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
I was going to mention the transparency issue, but being you brought it up, covered it, I think it falls right in line with what this board has been attempting all along. So thank you.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 has several subcomponents to it. And item 8A is a temporary closure of the Rita Road.
Yeah, this item 8A is related to item 8C, and I will cover both here in a minute. This particular proposal is for you to consider the temporary closure of Rita Road from just about 300 feet of Beaver Creek. And this is a dead-end county road. As you heard from the staff last week, there's really no residents who are going to be affected by this closure. And the purpose of this closure is to allow us to replace the bridge located on Beaver Creek. And by allowing the closure, it will allow us to expedite the construction of this particular bridge. The proposed road closure goes from September 8th, 2020, if the board decides to approve, through January 29, 2021. And I believe Matt Anselman from Public Works is ready, or somebody from Public Works is ready to answer the questions. Is that you, Brian?
Bill Richardson, Associate Civil Engineer.
I can't recognize anybody with masks.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Mensah, anything on this issue?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
All right, Matt et al., thank you very much. Stick around though, because we're gonna get to C in a minute. 8B, approved project prospectus for local agency agreement for PAC-AB safety project.
Yeah, this particular item is related to, for you to authorize the Director of Public Works to sign a project prospectus, also known as the local agency agreement. And that is the instrument, a formal agreement the county enters with the Washington State Department of Transportation when the county receives federal grant for transportation purposes. This particular grant is for $475,000. I'm sorry, the grant is for $315,000, and the total project cost is for $475,000. And that includes a match that is coming from the county road fund. The specific areas of work for under this safety project will be to enhance pedestrian safety and access by improving crossings on Yelm Highway and Pacific Avenue corridors. And again, for you to consider authorizing the Director of Public Works to sign this agreement so we can receive the federal grant to do safety improvements on those two corridors. Public Works is ready to answer any questions you may have.
Ramiro, thank you for giving the $315,000 cost and the aggregate of $475,000, but it's not in the motion. Is that something we can add to the motion?
No, because at this point, you're not authorizing the amount, you're authorizing to receive the grant. So the next step in the process is to go out to bid, and then for you to award the contract to the low bidder. And at that point is when you authorize the total cost.
Okay.
So
good,
this is just authorizing the Director of Public Works to sign that instrument, that agreement to receive the money.
All right, good, thanks. And at Public Works, who's sitting at the head of the table? Because the chop your head's cut off.
This is Jesse King.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Oh, we have to maintain our social distancing.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Mensah?
Nope.
Nope, nor do I. Thank you, gentlemen. 8C, this is in conjunction with 8A, the Reader Road contract.
Yes, sir. And this is on July 30, 2020, the Department of Public Works received 8 bids for the construction of the Reader Road Bridge, also known as CRP 61510. The low bidder was SB Structures LLC with a total bid of lower bid of $1,423,467.60. And the total cost of the project, I believe, is going to be $1,565,814. That includes a 10% contingency to cover any type of unexpected items during construction. This is this will be funded by the what we call the BRAC, the grant, which is the Bridge Replacement Advisory Committee grant. Is a federal money, and that federal money addresses specifically for those bridges. They're structurally deficient, and this is the bridge that has gone through that competitive process and has found that it's structurally deficient, and the regular maintenance is no longer valid, so it needs to be replaced. If you approve this item as well as item 8A, this bridge will be replaced hopefully by the end of this year. And the staff from Public Works is here to answer any additional questions.
Beautiful. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
Yes, sir.
Nope. Great. Thank you, Romero. Thank you, gentlemen, again for
this is easy this morning.
hanging out. Yeah. 8D, Delta, contract award for Jones Road guardrail installation.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, on August 6, 2020, Public Works received 2 bids to install guardrails along Johns Road. The 2 bids were secured by going through the MRC, Small Works roster, that is the Municipal Research and Service Center. That is a service the all municipalities can access and go through a Small Works roster when the amount of the contract is small, less than $50,000, I believe. In this case, we have secured the low bidder was M2 Industrial Incorporated, and the low bid was for $42,380. And again, it's just to install new guardrails along Johns Road, and the funding is coming from the real estate excise tax 2. And the RE2 amount is already included in the budget, and this is to continue with the construction.
All right, Commissioner Menser, anything?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Great. Thank you. We're moving on from that one now. 8E, contract award for the 2018 Highway Safety Improvement Program.
So this is the last item for Public Works today. As you can tell, Public Works is busy during their construction season. So on July 30, 2020, the department received 4 bids related to the 2018 Highway Safety Improvement Program. The bids were received, and the low bidder was Coral Construction Company, and the amount of $868,888. The department is asking for you to consider awarding the contract for $955,777, which is an additional 10% to cover any unexpected issues during construction. This particular cost is going to be fully covered by the federal grant, which is the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, so there is no road money associated with this particular grant. Some of the key elements of this safety program includes removing and replacing over 8,000 of substandard guardrail along Little Rock and Woodall Creek Road, install over 3,000 feet of new guardrail along Turner Road Southeast, and also install close to 5 miles of center line and shoulder rumble strips along Rainier Road. I know this rumble strips item has been discussed in many occasions, particularly from Commissioner Edwards' perspective. And you heard the department has heard some of the concerns related to the noise generated by the rumble strips, and they have already are going to have a setback from driveways where they're going to be installing the new rumble strips. And I believe that was addressing the concerns the board raised related to the noise generation on the rumble strips.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I didn't know they had a setback, but I'm glad we do have that setback.
Yeah.
But we have Associate Civil Engineer, Kevin Forbes Kashani. Raise your hand, Kevin.
Good morning.
Do you have anything to add, sir?
No. I think we're
Okay.
good.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
No, sir. Sounds like we got it covered.
All right, Commissioner Mensah?
Good.
Wow. Woohoo. Public Works, thank you. You guys rock. And
Must be the
guys,
coffee
well,
this morning.
Men and women at Public Works, thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to agenda item number 9. It shows 8, but it's actually 9. And that's the commissioners reporting back on our work sessions and assigned committees. And then we do the wrap up, and then we will conclude this afternoon's board meeting. And we're going to continue on. Let me see. It's only just before 10. Yeah, we're going to continue on. We're going to review the agenda for next Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock, and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the board, approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from today. Then an opportunity to address the public, for the public to address the board, and we'll know more in the next week what will come of that. Number 2 on the agenda is county manager's update. I don't think you have anything this far in advance, do you, Romero?
No, sir.
Okay, at this point, agenda item number 3, consent items, is only the financial services report, and we will get that this week. And then we jump into department items. The first one is the sheriff, 4A, request for proposal for pharmaceutical services for the jail.
Thank you, Commissioners. The Sheriff's Office is requesting for you to authorize the Sheriff's Office to go with a request for proposals to secure pharmaceutical services for the Thurston County Corrections Facility. The current contract the Sheriff's Office has to provide those services is with OmniCare, and has been in place since January 1st, 2015, and the contract will end December 31st, 2020. So it is timely for the Sheriff's Office to go through a request for proposals to secure a new vendor or perhaps reaffirm the existing vendor. Some of the services associated with this particular request for proposal is for pharmaceutical services for adult correction facilities housing just about 300 plus. Full pharmaceutical services, including filling prescriptions, orders 7 days a week for the corrections facility. Currently active is approximately 20 to 100 prescriptions a day. Delivering of the prescriptions orders on a daily basis. Use a prescription package to deliver these services, as well as making sure that we have a check and balance as to how the prescriptions are delivered to the facility. And again, is a very restrictive type of coordination that needs to occur. And again, in the past few years, just to give a perspective of the cost of the services at the corrections facility, in 2017, we spent $52,800. In 2018 was $66,259. In 2019, we spent $50,700, and so far in 2020, we have spent $46,000, just about $47,000. The source of funds for this particular request for proposals and services are coming from the general fund, and this already included on the sheriff's budget, so there is no additional adjustment on the budget. So I don't see anybody from the sheriff's office, but I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions. If I cannot answer, I will bring those to you next week.
All right, Commissioner Mensah?
No, sounds straightforward.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Great. Agenda item number 5, community planning and economic development.
The board is too kind with me this morning.
I'll tell you, you're skating today. Department of Ecology Shoreline Master Program grant.
As you know, the county is required to go through and conduct an update, a periodic update of the Shoreline Master Program, also known as the SMP. And that is in the process of being conducted. And I believe there is some meetings with the Planning Commission, and the staff can give you additional perspective on that. Through this process, the Department of Ecology has made grants available to help us go through this periodic update. This particular item is for you to consider authorizing the Director of Planning and Economic Development, CPED, to receive $84,000 from the Department of Ecology, again, to continue to review the Shoreline Master Program. I believe Andy DeFovis as well as Chris Chapeau are here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
One heck of a beard, Andy. My goodness.
Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Messer?
Just, I know we're behind on getting this update done, and so I'm just wondering how that plays into the grant. Like, does Ecology give us any grief about our timing, or are they trying to hurry us up, or what is or is it just kind of absolutely kind of formulaic? You know, we're still working, so we qualify for this money.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. We are still working on the grant. The local staff that I've been working with are, pleased that we're making progress through the Planning Commission review. We are behind in the update. However, these grant funds are available to us to use to continue working through the process through June of next year, 2021.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's Associate Planner Andy DeFovis.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anything else, Ty?
No, thank you.
Okay. Chris and Ty, thank you, or Ty. Chris and Andy, thank you very much for joining us. Ty, you stick around.
All right.
All right, thank you. That takes us to agenda item number 6, Public Health and Social Services, the CJTA plan. That's the Criminal Justice Treatment Account plan.
Yeah, Commissioners, during the fiscal year 2020-2021, Thurston County Public Health Social Services receives an annual allocation of $371,177 in the Criminal Justice Treatment Account, also known as the CJTA. There is very prescriptive as to how this money can be used, and has to be spent in substance and use disorder treatment and recovery support services. But also, in addition to meet the specific deliverables of this program, there has to be somewhat of an ad hoc committee. And in that committee, the CJTA panel includes representatives from Superior Court, Drug Court, Public Defense, Prosecutor and Attorney, and a substance use treatment provider must agree on how the money should be spent through agreeing on a work plan. The CJTA panel met on August 2020, and they agree to highlight 7 objectives. And I will let Carrie to walk you through the 7 objectives. The panel agree. And again, this item is for you to approve the work plan for the CJTA grant funding. Carrie Henning is here to walk you through what this, I don't want to steal her thunder, put it that way.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Hennon, Public Health and Social Services. So, yes, you guys approved the revenue contract from the state for this fiscal year several weeks ago. And then, as Ramiro said, a local panel develops the plan for how that should be spent. And now I'm bringing that plan to you. The members of the panel are everyone. Ramiro said, I think he might have not mentioned the sheriff's office, who is also statutorily required on the panel. So as Ramiro said, the plan as agreed to by that group includes 7 uses of that funding. We sort of put 4 that were prioritized and 3 that are we outlined as, if we have resources available toward the end of the year and need to spend down. So the 4 primary uses are Substance use disorder assessments when requested by a defendant's defense attorney. The second use, and really the bulk of the funds, go to drug court for urinalysis, treatment services, and some recovery support services. The third use is parenting classes for eligible individuals. The fourth use is a new use. We did receive additional funding this year. There were some stipulations on that funding and some clarifications issued by the state. So the panel agreed to allocate some of the funding to mental health and veterans court to eligible individuals. So not everyone who participates in mental health and veterans court is eligible, but most of their participants are. So this funding would go to urinalysis and recovery support services for that population. So those were the four uses kind of prioritized by the panel. Then the three other things that the group wanted to keep in the plan, but sort of hold out as the fiscal year goes on and see how spending goes. So those three remaining uses are medication-assisted treatment in the jail. The sheriff's office has rolled out medication-assisted treatment in different forms for different populations and has not needed additional funding to do that, but we're leaving it in the plan so that should they need to draw on this fund source, we could do that without going back to the state and having to revise our plan. The sixth thing listed in the plan is really sort of a miscellaneous other substance use disorder treatment for eligible individuals. And then the last is housing rental assistance for eligible individuals. So those are the uses agreed to by the panel, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Commissioner Edwards. Thank you, Gary.
I do not have any questions. I'm up on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Menser.
Several times you mentioned eligible individuals. Is this geared toward low income, or what are we talking about there?
So there's not an income requirement. The statute says they need to have charges filed. So criminal charges filed by a prosecuting attorney and a substance use disorder. So, for example, when I mentioned that not everyone in mental health court would necessarily be eligible, if there's not documentation that they have a co-occurring substance use disorder, then they wouldn't be eligible. Only people who have a substance use disorder. So it's really those, the charges filed and the substance use disorder. Okay.
And then one of the things that I'm just asking about this because it comes up a lot that I know we have a gap with respect to domestic violence treatment. Is CJTA focused on substance use order issues specifically?
It is, yes. And yes, it is focused on substance use disorder. I guess one could argue if someone had criminal charges filed, that's a discussion we could have with the state. If someone has criminal charges filed and a substance use disorder, we could explore whether DV treatment would be eligible use, whether the state would be okay with that. But so many people in need of DV treatment have civil cases, not criminal cases. So unless they have another criminal charge, there may be an eligibility issue, if that makes sense. But yes, that's a gap that does come up often.
You got it, Ty?
Yep.
Carrie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
6B, cold weather and hazardous weather task or contract with Tom Webster. Hi, Tom.
Good morning. So, commissioners, this is perhaps the last step in the long process. And let me give you the background related to this process. Back in February 21st, 2020, we issued a request for proposals to secure proposals for homeless and affordable housing applications. The applications were received and they were reviewed by a team of expert panel. And those recommendations were submitted to the Health and Human Services Council, HHSC, which is soon to be eliminated, which made official recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. And you already allocated and approved a few grants related to this process itself. The only step in the process that was left out, it was to address the cold weather and hazardous weather allocation contracts. So there was a set aside from that allocation. This particular item is for you to consider awarding 5 contracts for a total of $230,000. And those 5 contracts will be to the community youth services for young adult service shelter cold weather for $62,000, family support center for the Pearl Blossom Place cold weather $70,000, partners in prevention education shelter in place for the cold weather $68,000, the Interfaith Works hazardous weather for $15,000, and also for the partners in prevention education for the shelter in place as well during the hazardous weather for an additional $15,000. That equates to a total of $230,000. And this will go in effect between September 1st, 2020 and will end on August 31st, 2021. Tom Webster, as you introduce him, he's available to answer any questions related to this proposal.
Tom, do you have anything to add?
No, that's a good summary. These, as Romero said, we allocated most of these funds earlier this year, but because of the cold weather, we were trying to find solutions for this winter, is why these are coming to you a little later in the process than they normally do.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments of Tom?
No, sir. Covered well.
Commissioner Menser?
Just, do you have any, curious if you had any comments, Commissioner Hutchings, as the representative there, if you're comfortable with this. So am I.
Oh, I'm more than comfortable. And just thank you for asking. And just to reiterate what Romero mentioned, that the HHSC/CIP, CIP is gone. The HHSC will disappear as soon as we have the ILA signed by all the jurisdictions.
Yeah, I will cover that in the next item.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Got ahead of myself. And so, okay, thank you for that. But yes, I'm very much okay with this, you bet. All right. Then 6C is the approval of the ILA to create the Regional Housing Council.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. This has been somewhat of a long journey, which started back in September 2019, when the local jurisdictions, the 3 cities, the county, they started having conversations around the table as to how we're going to be addressing the unsheltered and housing needs in the county as a region. So, so you may recall, at first we had an idea of a project, then evolved that perhaps this is going to be a great opportunity for all the jurisdictions to sit around the table and start making recommendations and decisions at a regional level to address this very difficult need. So the result of that is the Regional Housing Council. And the Regional Housing Council it has the objective of looking at the needs across the county, regardless of the municipal boundaries, and start addressing the needs of the unsheltered and the housing needs again in the county. This is I believe this is the last step of the last year, but at least is the beginning of the next phase of the Regional Housing Council. By this agreement, which has been reviewed by all the local jurisdictions, by the legal, by the attorneys for all the jurisdictions, that they have agreed in the terms and conditions of this agreement. And again, this formalizes the commitment to have regional conversations. And so I'm particularly excited to present this item to you today for you to consider taking action next week because it has been a long time coming. And I believe this is the beginning of a much better way to conduct making decisions to address those issues. Tom?
Great, thank you. The only thing I would add is kind of as was implied earlier, this does dissolve the HHSC. So the HHSC will no longer exist once this interlocal is formally executed. However, the interlocal does continue the 0.5% sales tax revenue that was collected under the HHSC for use for health and human services activities. We've renamed that the Human Services Fund, so HSF, so that will be a new acronym to learn, but it's essentially the same as the previous HHSC dollars that were collected under that interlocal agreement. So that carries through into this Regional Housing Council ILA.
Go ahead, Tom. Do you have more?
No, I'm happy to answer any other questions as well.
Okay.
So
Go ahead, Guerrero, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to add this, this Regional Housing Council, it will make funded recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners because the ultimate authority lies on the Board of County Commissioners. But I think we have laid out a process in which everybody is part of that decision-making process. So it's not, I know that some of the jurisdictions had a concern that perhaps after all this work has been done by the Regional Housing Council, then comes to the board and the board makes changes. We develop a process within the interlocutor agreement that we have addressed those concerns, and I believe every single jurisdiction is on board on that process as well. I just want to clarify that ultimately the Board of County Commissioners have the final say in allocating the funds related to the Regional Housing Council, as you have been in the HHSC, the CIP, and any other funding sources.
Thank you for that. And this is evidence of the relationship that the county shares with each city. That's Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, Yelm, Rainier, Tenino, and the town of Bucota. That's really taken off in the last 18, 20 months. And it's based on trust, mutual goals, mutual interests, issues that we share, and idea sharing. And it's going to build for here. And this is all good for all of the citizens of Thurston County. And so thank you for your efforts on that, Tom, as well. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to know that we're going to have this ILA signed with all the cities. Commissioner Edwards, anything, questions or comments?
No, sir. Well covered.
Commissioner Menser?
Just, appreciate that comment about the improved relations over the last 18, 19 months, because as a candidate for commissioner, when I was learning a lot about housing issues, that was one of the things that I consistently heard was that the cities and county weren't working well together and they weren't collaborating in the ways that they could. And so kind of piggybacking on what Ramiro said, to me, this is a realization of a new approach and a new way of working together. And I'm very proud that we're able to move this to this point, and hopefully the results the community will see from this collaboration will just prove that point and be an asset to the whole county.
And I agree it will be, and I'm sure it will be. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Nope.
That takes us to item number 7 on the agenda, Public Works, setting a public hearing for the Secure Transportation Improvement Program.
So this is a very prescriptive process, and there you go. The board has to go through every year related to the Transportation Improvement Program. And this is in alignment with RCW 36.81, 1.121, in which the Board of County Commissioners has to approve the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program for the Department of Public Works to utilize and exercise and to implement all the programs outlined in projects outlined in the plan. Public Works presented this program to you, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. And through the formal approval process, before the board considers doing that, you need to hold a public hearing for the public to give the public the opportunity to provide comments on any particular projects and programs listed in this plan. So this particular item for you is to consider setting a public hearing for September 15, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon. And again, for you to receive public testimony related to the Transportation Improvement Program. And the actual approval most likely will be aligned to, on the timing, aligned with the budget. They might be coming for you at the end of, during December timeframe. Scott Lindblom, the county engineer who is the owner of this particular plan, is available to answer any particular questions you may have.
All right. Scott, do you have anything to add before we get to pummel you with questions?
I do not have anything to add. As the county manager mentioned, we did present this in a briefing to you on July 29, and next steps, again, the public hearing, and then later the final adoption of this by the Board of County Commissioners.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Minster, any questions or comments?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Wow, you just got pummeled. Thank you, Scott. Very much. That takes us to, and again, we're finishing up the agenda for September 1st next week. And that takes us to the commissioners wrapping up on our board assignments and committee work, and the county manager reviewing our schedule. Then we move right into a public hearing, and the public hearing is Public Health and Social Services regarding the 2019 HUD Annual Action Plan Amendment.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. This public hearing will be a hybrid. Well, we will set up a Zoom public testimony as well as the conference call. And for the members of the public who would like to come and provide public testimony in person, we will make sure that we have here in room 280, we have a capacity of maximum 10 people per room, including staff, so we have to manage the crowds. I don't expect much, but just to make sure in the event that we meet the capacity here in room 280, we always have room 152 on the first floor as an overflow, and we have all the equipment in place for the public to follow the meeting. And we will, Commissioner Hutchins, you will call up whomever is sitting in room 152 to come up and provide the public testimony. That's how we have been managing public hearings related to the restrictions related to the COVID-19 emergency. So this particular public hearing is, you will receive public testimony related to the Community Development Block Grant Program that we received. The county received $717,852 is related to the CARES Money Act. That was the federal CARES money, but that's outside of the $15.7 million. So it came in a different direction through the Housing and Urban Development HUD, and it was a direct allocation to the county. You may recall the intent of the board was to have a regional conversation as to how those funds could be utilized and distributed. And I believe Commissioner Hutchins participated on the ad hoc committee, as well as Tom facilitated with representatives from the many jurisdictions. So the group concluded in funding $172,000 for food assistance activities related to the Thurston County Food Bank, Senior Services of South Sound, Meals on Wheels. Also allocated $300,000 of these funds to secure a fixed or mobile location, testing location to serve the citizens of South Thurston County. Also set aside $100,000 to be used for potential acquisition or lease that will serve for quarantine and isolation services. And the remainder, $143,570, it will be for administrative cost. And this is allowed by the federal grant to set aside 20% of the allocation, because there is a lot of paperwork behind that as to how we need to make sure we do that. You already received a letter from the city of Lacey questioning whether the 20%, it was way too much in terms of administrative services. And again, that is a public testimony you will consider among the many others that you might receive before the board takes a final action. The action before is for you to authorize to amend the 2019 Housing and Urban Development Annual Action Plan. And that's one of the requirements the HUD requires to do so when we need to change the activities within that plan. Tom?
That's an excellent summary. I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments regarding this?
No, sir, I do not.
All right, Commissioner Menzer? Nope, nor do I. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
That concludes September 1st. And according to my clock, we have 10:28. We're going to take a 12-minute break right now. 12-minute break. Please be back at 10:40, and we'll continue on. We are in recess. So welcome back to the agenda setting and work session for August 25th, 2020. We're moving on to proclamations and awards. Amy Davis, clerk of the board.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Grab the microphone.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amy Davis, clerk of the board. There are no proclamations and awards to review this week.
Wonderful. Advisory boards and commissions?
There are also no advisory boards and commissions aside from Mr. Chad Sutter, who will be reappointed presumably this afternoon.
Got it. Thank you. And Megan Porter, our PIO. We're doing a PIO check-in now.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. As Ramiro mentioned earlier, the Comcast franchise negotiation team met last Friday. We're still expecting to be ready to bring that contract forward by the end of September. And then also a follow-up request from Commissioner Menser. I reached out to Allison Osterberg at TRPC and offered assistance on communicating about the climate mitigation plan. They aren't currently ready to start communicating about that, but Allison will reach out when she's ready. Pending any questions, that's all I got.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments for Megan?
No, sir.
Ty, anything further?
Nope.
Well, I don't either. Megan, you're doing awesome work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ramiro, legislative update?
Yes. In mid-September, I will have a meeting with Deborah Manguia. And at that point, we will start developing a proposed legislative agenda for the county. When we get to the point of that, I will formally bring this for your consideration, conversation, any changes they would like to do. And then later in the year, then I will ask you to approve, as you have in the past, what will be Thurston County's legislative agenda for next year. It's going to be a little bit of interesting session. As you know, the legislature is going to be concentrated mainly in addressing the gaps in the funding as they have stated. So we'll see how we can be efficient and bring in any legislative items that you'd like to put forth for them to consider.
Okay. Ty, any questions or comments regarding that?
No.
Nope. Gary?
No, sir.
Okay. Public hearing decisions and briefing is the Black Lake Special Use District.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a follow-up to the follow-up. You received a public testimony on July 28th related to a proposal of the Special Use District to increase the fees in order for them to issue a bond of $1.4 million to treat the water in Black Lake. So before we get into the details of this, I always like to make a difference between what is a special use district and what is a lake management district. A special use district, such as the Black Lake Special Use District, is an independent district. They have independent elected officials in which they have formed a district that can generate revenue by fee and taxations to treat the water as well as managing the lake itself. The lake management districts, which we have two, is a little bit different, similar but different. In the lake management district, the county staff is the one who provides the support to the lake management district. In the lake management district, they have advisory board that provides feedback on that. Fundamentally different. In this particular case, you heard the public testimony related to this proposed charges. Last week, you had a follow-up to this public hearing in which you had a couple of questions. As I was tracking, you wanted to see what will be the overall total charges, including the proposed rates. So in your packet, you will find a long list of all the different parcel numbers. I'm not expecting you to read the parcel numbers, but that gives you an indication of the assessments, the current charges, the proposed assessment, and the total charges as it should be. As you can probably tell, the first property before you is the They use Fish and Wildlife property. They have a boat launch on Black Lake, and that's the highest assessment on this property. And then you go down as to many different properties. That is the information that you requested. I hope we satisfied that question. The second question that you had was you received public testimony related to mobile home parks. And they have a lot of residents in there with, as Commissioner Edwards stated, with fixed income, senior citizens. And the conversation was, because there is really no property owners in there, it's just leaseholders on their spaces. The assessment will be assessed to the property owner of the park. And the conversation was, okay, how that is going to be affecting those individuals who are currently paying, living in those mobile home parks. We couldn't give you the answer, and I don't know if we can give you the answer as to how the property is planning to pass the additional rates to the residents of those parks. But I don't know if Tim had the opportunity to get additional feedback from the mobile home parks. Anyways, take it on, Tim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager, Thurston County Public Works. We did reach out, Paula Cracknell reached out to the mobile home parks. To my knowledge, we did not receive any information back from them. We did an exercise yesterday, made some assumptions. So if you look at your list in front of you, the third parcel down is a mobile home park, and the sixth parcel down is a mobile home park. Using geodata, I tried to determine the number of units within those areas. So please understand that they are guesstimates. I guess it's a little hard to get a real good number, but I think we're pretty close. In the third parcel down, there were 71 units, and the proposed special assessment would be an additional charge of the $5,661.94. So assuming that charge is spread evenly among those parcels, that would total an additional fee of $79.73 for each of those units. Moving down to the other mobile home park we were able to identify, that is the one with the proposed special assessment of $3,003. I counted 70 units within that area, and spreading that cost evenly among those units, that came up to $42.90. And again, those, we're assuming, making some assumptions there on how the owner of that parcel is going to spread those costs. But was just trying to get to the answer of the question from last week.
Hey, Tim, just like you said, we can't project what the landowner may or may not do regarding those fees or passing them on or matrix or whatever. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments of Tim?
Yes. Tim, you've referred to two parcels, one having 71 units and one having 70 units. I had an opportunity to talk to the residents from a park called Timberlane Senior Park, and I talked to the manager out there, and that park has 65 units, she said. So I don't know, does it sound like there's about 3 parks out there on the lake that you're aware of?
Well, Timberlane Properties is actually the 6th parcel down. So that is the one that I estimated 70 units for. So I was off by 5, but that is the same parcel.
I was told there was possibly 3 parks out there on the lake. Is that right? I just don't know the answer to that. I didn't look it up. Do you know?
I don't know for certain. I just scrolled down the parcel list and used geodata as a source. And I took it down 10 parcels, so down to the proposed assessment of $1,794. And out of those top parcels, 2 of those were mobile home parks.
Okay.
Whether there's a smaller one out there, I have not determined at this point.
Okay. I guess I'd just like to comment so my seatmates would know that I stopped out there last week and I talked to 9 residences at random at Timberlane, asking if they were aware of what was going on and how that was going to be handled. None of those 9 knew anything about this new assessment or move to upgrade the water quality on Black Lake. I then went and talked to the manager at Timberlane, and that person didn't know anything about it either. But there was an interesting issue that was taking place. Several weeks ago, this property sold to an investment firm, and it makes me wonder if the prior owner, and I'm not making any allegations here, but if the prior owner failed to notify the park members that there was going to be this attempt on Black Lake, because the park manager nor the 9 other people that I just randomly talked to out there had any knowledge about this. So I know it's not the responsibility of the county to go to these individual rented properties, because these are all properties, they're seniors, they're living on fixed income, and they rent the individual property from a landlord. So it does bother me that we heard when we had our public testimony, some, that were seniors on fixed income. I can only assume that possibly some of those were from the trailer parks. My fear is that this information was never passed on to the park residents, I guess, if you will. And I want to do what I can to help the lake residents fix the water quality in Black Lake. I make no bones about it. I think we need to do what needs to be done. The problem is other areas that have proceeded in lake quality issues like this, or water quality issues, have given some exemptions in some fashion or another to seniors on fixed income, very much like the assessor, apparently, or the treasurer, gives some kind of an exemption for certain seniors in certain income brackets on their property taxes. So I don't know what the answer is at this point. I know that there's going to be a substantial increase at the county on our county budget for parks and on the state operation as well. But I'm really concerned about these seniors. There's 65 of them that live in just this one park that I happen to stop out and do business or to talk with. So I just want to bring that up, that really bothers me. I know there are other mechanisms in place. I'd like to kind of follow up on what Commissioner Menser in our last work session said, that we need to come up with a fix for this water quality issue that's a real fix, not a Band-Aid. And I want to give due deference to the elected district managers out there, but something happened in the transfer of information to those people that are going to be affected by this. So I know that doesn't seem like a lot of money on each one of those, the way, Tim, you've got those divided out. But to individuals on a fixed income that are just barely making a go of it now, I guess I'd encourage my seatmates to take a look at the living style out there of how these folks are managing their lives, and see if you might not have some concerns similar to mine, that because I'm sure my seatmates very much want to fix this. do the water quality adjustment that needs to be done out there. But I'm not sure this is the way to go at this point in time, because that's quite a large segment of individuals that for whatever reason were not made aware that this was coming. And they were very concerned that because the governor has put a restriction on raising rent for fixed income folks, that this, if it passes, might go up along with the rent when it's allowed to be raised. And that's going to be pretty detrimental to these folks. So I don't know the answer. I'm just taking this opportunity because we don't get a chance to visit other than in notified work sessions. I just thought my seatmates ought to know that this issue is going on out there. So I'll just let it go at that at this point.
Good, thank you. Good information. Commissioner Mensah?
So I have other set of questions and concerns. And I don't know, I got more information in the wake of last Tuesday's meeting. I think some of it came in while we were actually talking. And I don't know if Tim has seen it or my seatmates have seen it. I'm not in front of my work computer to see, but a bunch of questions that, I don't necessarily know that that I've changed my mind, but I want to get answers and have full information before I make any final decisions. One of the issues, which is kind of a smaller issue, was about the use, the money is raised, but then the special district's going to get a bond, and the question about whether or not the county is involved in that, whether the county's credit, and there's some kind of financial backing from the county that supports that. That was just kind of a point of process that I didn't have an answer to for some of the citizens that were contacting me. A more interesting one for me was the special district formation statutes, which I looked at. There's a statute, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. The notes are all in my office, and I apologize, I'm out of county right now. The formation of a special district seems to relate to flood control. Then later on, there's a statute that talks about the powers that a special district would have, and it does talk about water quality. But the argument is that, well, those water quality actions have to be tied to the purpose of the formation, which does not seem to be for general water quality management. It looks like the way the statute reads, it looks like it's tied to flood, ditch, and flood. So I have that kind of question of curiosity about that. And then no sooner did it leave my mouth at last Tuesday's meeting that, I'd seen no evidence whatsoever that alum treatments are have ever been deemed unsafe. Then I had a group send me a study showing that it's killing fish and this, that, and the other. And, I don't know who did that study. It looked like some sort of professor doing his own thing. It didn't look, but I didn't have a chance to follow up with staff and see whether or not there was some concern about that. Or I believe that this treatment's been used in like Green Lake, like twice in Seattle and other places in California and stuff. So I kind of wanted to hear a follow up on that. I just want to be absolutely certain that, I would like us not to be in a place where we have to dump lots of chemicals into our county waterways. So it gives me concern when we're in a position where that's what we're doing. Now, it may be the best of a set of bad choices, and I'm certainly willing to accept that. But I just like to know exactly what I'm involved in when that's what I'm given a green light to. Again, all that's kind of on the negative side. I'll say on the positive side that, if the special district was appropriately formed, I give great deference to the point, if that's the point of forming that district was for them to manage water quality as a community, then that's what they should be allowed to do through their commissioners and their own processes. I'm disinclined to get involved and micromanage, because then we're basically at that point just discouraging any community from going about things that way. If it's just going to be, well, we get to do it until the commissioners don't really like it, and then they just kind of stick their hands in and control what we do, then that's not going to give citizens a very good incentive to come together and try to take things up on their own. So I'm still torn. I'd like to have these questions answered. They're probably not going to get answered today, and I don't have time to answer them for myself until next week at a minimum. So I'm not sure what our timeline is that we're looking at to try to deal with this, but I still want to address those issues before I'm ready to say yay or nay.
Thank you for that. I have a question and a comment, but I'll defer to Robin first. Go ahead, Robin.
I can answer the question about the county's liability for the bond. And we researched that with Elizabeth and bond counsel, and they say that the county is not liable, that the liability falls on the property owners of the special purpose district.
Okay.
Commissioner Hutchings?
Yeah.
Could I comment on something Commissioner Menser said?
Yes, please. I'm looking for an email regarding this, so you're giving me time. Go ahead.
Okay. You questioned, Commissioner Menser, you asked about alum treatments in other lakes. I can tell you that Lawrence Lake has had alum treatments and Long Lake has had alum treatments. I do have one question while you're looking for that, sir, for that email. Do the citizens that live in these trailer parks, are they voters in this lake special district, or is it just the property owner that owns the parcel getting to vote in this particular district election? Would you know that, Tim?
Yes, to answer your question, it would be the property owners.
So in other words, we're going to have, if there's 3 parks, I don't even know that there is, Commissioner Menser might know the answer to that. We're in a situation where we're going to have a lot of people affected financially that are probably those amongst us least likely to be able to handle that without representation almost. And that kind of bothers me that we haven't figured out a way to get some type of an exemption to those individuals. But I realize property owners have costs as well when they're doing business. So they have to have a mechanism to make recovery of those additional costs. So I'm really in a dilemma about how to move forward on this without penalizing these senior citizens that are in dire straits, I might add. So, and the economic times that are potentially coming that we're not sure of ourselves. Is the sky falling or not? We don't know. So I've got some serious questions. Maybe they don't go in line completely with Commissioner Menser, but I think we've got some serious questions that need to be answered.
Well, it seems that the property owners, when insurance rates, utility costs, property taxes, all of us unanimously last year voted for a 1% increase in property taxes, gets passed on to people renting trailers, apartments, duplexes, renting homes, gets passed on to those folks. And so this would be, I think, not any different. And we can't control that. And if it's a landlord that receives the funding or pays the assessment rather, I'm not sure, I don't think the individual renter would file for an exemption. That would be the landowner, but I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point. But that gets into the free enterprise as well for those poor folks. Tim, I wasn't able to find my email. When I put it in the done file, I can't open up any attachments. Did you receive that that report that looks like a research paper done by a doctor of some type, a PhD of some type regarding alum?
I don't recall seeing that, but I do recall seeing a fairly extensive response by Paula Cracknell to the alum question that was asked. So you hopefully, I know that Commissioner Menser has it in his inbox, and I'm hoping the other commissioners were copied as well, on a pretty extensive response to the question about alum safety.
Right, and I read it, but I just can't access it right now. When it's put in the done file, I can't open up attachments. But I want to be sure you get a copy of that somehow. Thank you. And there seems to be, at best, maybe the best word for it is snarky email going between some people in the Black Lake district as well. So it's festering. It's a major issue. And so, Romero, when's this come back to the board?
So a couple of thoughts before we get to that point, Commissioner. Property tax exceptions are given by, established by state law, and for senior citizens and as well as low income. And you heard from Doug Carmen last week, when you consider the Lone Lake rate increases, there are some exceptions that property owners can apply. I don't believe the tenants will be in that position to apply for those exemptions, because the exemption goes on the property owner, not on the tenant. So that might be a little bit difficult to achieve what Commissioner Edwards is stating. Now, in terms of the timing, obviously we need to give the county treasurer enough time to build this rate into the next year's property tax statements. So there is a little bit of time for you to consider, but I will ask you to provide direction this morning whether you like to direct the staff to bring an AIS, because that's the formal step that you need to take at a formal meeting. Because at this point, you're not voting on this morning. I'm not asking you to vote on this. I'm asking you to provide direction for bring a formal item at a later Board of County Commissioners meeting for you to consider that. And maybe at that time, we can follow up some of the questions that you may have before you take a formal action.
At this point, my direction would be to move ahead with an AIS. But I'll go to Commissioner Menser first.
I think I agree. I'm not, like I say, that as long as I've had a little more time to dot a couple I's and cross T's. I haven't seen Paula's email yet. So once I kind of chew on that and maybe talk to somebody about the formation issue, I definitely don't want to derail the timings if in fact the board decides to go forward.
All right, Commissioner Edwards. It does not mean we're approving anything or disapproving. It just means it moves forward.
I know, but this really bothers me when I talk to the manager of a place and nobody knew anything. Boy. And the impact this might have on the senior citizens. And then here we are again up against a time frame that we need to make a decision. And that decision is going to have a pretty good impact on, could be a substantial number of citizens. So I don't know what the time frame is, the deadline that we need to get this in front of the treasurer to do business, but I think I'm going to be opposed to this AIS at this point, if for no other reason. I am hoping that all parties involved would be aware that there's a little dissension amongst the board members possibly on how to address this situation. I'm not saying they're going to be able to come up with a solution, but I am really looking for a fairness issue to come into play here. And so for that reason, hoping to bring awareness to this, I'm going to oppose this AIS at this point. Not saying within the next week or two that I wouldn't be in favor of that AIS, but right now there's just too many unknowns, and I think we need to get the state involved here as well, because The state claims ownership of this lake, yet they put very little into taking care of this lake. And the residents throughout the state come to this lake and utilize it almost for free. And yet we might be penalizing some senior citizens. So I don't know where I'm going to be farther down the road, but I sure would like to have a little more information. So that's where I'm going to be at
So
for the county manager.
if I may, so what I have is 2 board members would like to proceed with submitting an AIS. And so I will work with Tim in terms of the timing. Tim, let's shoot for a late September board meeting for an AIS.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hutch, could I comment one more thing?
Yep.
Providing we do get contacted by all parties, or at least interested parties in this, is there any chance that we could have an additional discussion on this amongst the board members, you know, in public at one of our meetings, somewhere along the line? I don't know where that might be. I don't know where it'll fit, but I don't want to be, I would prefer not to be locked in to an end of next month situation and then be faced with the same thing, because I want the water quality to be improved, but I want it to be done fairly with all the citizens involved.
Yeah, go ahead. Regarding that discussion we'll have.
Yeah, so you will have 2 opportunities to discuss this item. When we review this item on your agenda, that will be prior to, in which the item will be on your agenda on the day of, where the agenda item will be stated. So it will be 2 opportunities in which the board will have the opportunity to discuss this matter a little bit more in detail.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. All right, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
That takes us to commissioner items. The first is the CRF funding update.
The commissioners, this is related to the $15.7 million county relief funds, coronavirus relief funds that we received from the federal government through the Department of Commerce. And you made several allocations and you approved on those. And I committed to every so often to provide you an update as to how that expenditure is going, because the objective is that we have to spend all the money by October 31st, 2020, unless the Department of Commerce or the federal government extend that deadline. Before, and Jenica has been incredible and extremely efficient as to how she has helped us to manage this particular distribution of funds. Before I can give the floor for Jenica to give you the details of the status report, as you may know, there was additional $240 million that the Department of Commerce was holding back. They were supposed to be coming to local jurisdictions. In the last Washington State Association of County meetings, we received some feedback that perhaps they're going to release those funds. And in fact, we just submitted a request for what is the plan the county had on the $15.7 million. We submitted that plan to WASAC. And I believe, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to receive a notice. They'd like to amend our current contract for us to receive additional dollars. If it's the same formulation in which the county received the $15.7 million, there is a potential we can probably have an additional $11, $12 million. And at that point, when we get that information from the Department of Commerce, I will organize a meeting with the board just to make sure, and the staff will provide some suggestions as to how the money can be utilized. Anyways, that was an update from my part. Jenica?
Thank you, Ramiro. And good morning, commissioners. Jenica Machado, Economic Development Manager. A few updates on the CRF funds. Last Thursday, we received our first reimbursement from Commerce. The payment was for our March to May costs, which totaled slightly over $1.6 million. The payment covers the majority of costs for this time period, but there are a few remaining costs to be claimed. With Thursday's payment, there is $1.2 million remaining from the original $2.9 million allocation for that time period. For IT, the centralized purchasing, they have spent over $528,000 of their $725,000 plus allocation. I believe you received a few updates on the offsite courtroom project. Right now, our update is court's requirements have been defined, suitable space has been located, stakeholders have identified required configuration changes within the space. They're currently working on the tenant improvement clarifications and negotiations. The next steps will be to identify any possible value engineering items to reduce project cost. The lease terms and conditions are currently being reviewed by the county legal department. They expect to sign the lease in the next week for the tenant improvements to begin immediately thereafter. This project includes Superior Courts, District Courts, and Corrections support for the offsite space. And overall, we are on track to have the project complete and paid for in October. Additionally, $200,000 has been authorized for the corrections response to the COVID outbreak in the jail. This is to cover the emergency leave for staff, overtime to backfill staff on leave due to COVID, testing for staff and inmates, and supplies they may have to purchase like thermometers. And a quick update on our external allocations. We just received our first invoice from the EDC. And this is upwards of $560,000. And so that means 211 business grants and 44 child care provider grants. As for the United Way, the contract process took a little longer than expected, but the contract has been authorized and sent to the United Way for signature. So we should have the contract fully signed by both parties by the end of the week. Do you have any questions at this time?
I do. Would you just repeat or reiterate what you talked about, the $200,000 of the CRF money for the jail, what that went towards?
So this allocation is to cover the emergency leave for staff, overtime to backfill staff that may be on leave due to COVID, testing for staff and inmates, and supplies that need to be purchased, and this could be thermometers.
Is this the only award they've been given, or that $200,000, that's it, or is this, have they received funding in the past? From CRF?
I can look that up and get back to you of what the funding may have looked like in the past.
All right, thank you. And well, let me open it up to my seatmates. Commissioner Menser?
Maybe I can answer a little bit of that question, Commissioner Hutchins.
Thank you.
When the board made allocations of the $15.7 million, you set aside about $750,000 for emerging needs. And that is where the $200,000 for the corrections related to this outbreak is coming from. Okay. It's from the emerging needs.
Okay.
There is also set aside for the sheriff and corrections to cover costs such as hazard pay, other supplies they may have purchased at the beginning of the outbreak, miscellaneous things that are contained within the internal costs that everyone's sharing in.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Menser, any questions of Jenica or Romero or Robin?
Jenica, you mentioned the United Way. So can you remind me, was it 500,000? How much did we allocate to them?
500,000, and we added 30,000 because they will be also administering the utility funds. And so the total contract was 530,000.
So that money hasn't, you said that took longer than anticipated and that's not in their hands yet, or so that's?
No, and it'll also be a reimbursement process. And so we'll be invoiced as they are getting the funds out to the nonprofits.
And that wasn't just United Way, it was United Way and the Thurston.
The fund, yeah, is managed with Community Foundation and United Way, but our contracting partner is the United Way.
Okay.
And the focus it's been months now when we had their presentation, the focus of their efforts is on, does it have a focus, or is it kind of looking across the social services spectrum and trying to identify gaps, or did they have an identified focus of food security or rent assistance, or I don't know, something.
It was food security and housing stability.
Okay, so that's what I was remembering. Okay.
Was it also, I thought it was basic needs like hygiene products and such as well?
We have the scope to food security and housing stability.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
I don't know who this might be for, but possibly Robin might know about it from a facility standpoint. I'm just wondering, with that new problem that we're faced with the virus over in the jail, is there any talk about some kind of a positive, I really don't know if it's positive airflow or negative airflow in certain segments of the jail that have been in place for years for tuberculosis issues. But I'm wondering if that isn't something that has been talked about, the possibility of adjusting some of our air handlers so that we're not recirculating contaminated air. Has that come up at all? Are you working towards that? Or?
So no one has approached me specifically about that since the outbreak began, but we had already gone to all of our buildings and adjusted the air handlers to maximize airflow and made sure that all new filters are in place and are being exchanged regularly. So we were already addressing airflow, but if there's something additional we should look at for the jail, I'd be open to that conversation.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. That's good, sir.
All right, thanks. Jenna, guys, I think I've told you this before, but we have had some excellent hires at the county, and you are one of the top. So thank you very much for all you're doing and your attention to detail, the way you represent the county. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much.
Now that takes us to, before we get to public testimony, you had another agenda item you want to add, Romero?
Yes, thank you, commissioners. This is not on your agenda, and we just received sales tax information from the state yesterday. So I know that we're just going to give you a brief, but Robin's going to give you a brief as to what those numbers are, and we'll come back with more detail next week when we already have a schedule to budget work sessions on both on Wednesday and Friday, where we get into more detail as to what the new numbers will affect the overall county budget. Robin?
So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you're seeing a spreadsheet here that has revenue collections and projections for sales tax. And what you see is this number right here.
Can you zoom? Can you zoom it?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, yep.
There you go. That's
so
great.
Number right here in yellow, $2 million is the Department of Revenue payment for August. It is significantly above last year, and it is by about 12% above our receipts last year and 6.5% above forecast. We haven't had an opportunity yet. It just came in last night to really take a look and see what's going on. So we're going to do some analysis. I would share with you, though, that if you look at year to date, here's year to date. Our collections are 6.5% above last year and are running just 0.5% off of forecast. So at this point in time, we're very close. And we are, again, taking a close look at what's behind these numbers and talking about what this means for how we forecast the future.
So when you say you're going to look about where those numbers come from, there could be a point of destination, or it could be some other or combination of factors.
We're still working on how to determine if any of our revenue or how much of our sales tax revenue is due to the Wayfair decision and Marketplace Fairness Act. And we're trying to connect with anyone at the Department of Revenue who can help us with that. In the meantime, what we're doing is analyzing the sectors that pay the taxes. So next week, I should be able to tell you things like retail sector is up, restaurant sector is down, and by what percentage. Construction up or down, motor vehicle sales are the states, for example, reporting that motor vehicle sales are like 46% below forecast. Well, what are they for Thurston County? So those are the things we're trying to look at, and we'll have some information for you next week.
That's wonderful. It's good news, but also validates your team that you were pretty much right on the money. Doesn't it show that to the bottom line? About 0.5%. About 0.5%. That's not bad. Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very close to a pre-COVID forecast, which is a little bit confusing, quite frankly, because all the economists are saying that we would be down, and in Thurston County we're not.
Yay. Thank you, Robin. Commissioner Edwards. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I won't get into anything other than, could you print me a copy of that, please? So I could have that for today. And then I know you're going to get additional information. But
good, thank you. Commissioner Menser, anything?
On Friday, so I'm also confused because we, if the destination sales tax and all that was issue, you'd think it would be across the state, and that would be happening to every county. And in Friday's WASAC, email they sent out every week, they talked about Snohomish County, and they're way down, and they're cutting 10% of the budget, and they're scrambling around. So I just having trouble figuring out why. Somewhere like Snohomish County would be in this terrible trouble and Thurston would not. I know we have certain employment structure that's different, but that doesn't seem to be what people are saying. And then I guess my follow-up to that, or any comment on that, I'd love to hear. And then just, is there, does this follow any, so whatever you got, whatever you got for Thurston here today or yesterday, how does that look like statewide? I mean, is the state overall looking better in sales tax revenue, or is this a Thurston, good news for Thurston, not good news elsewhere in the state?
So we don't have access to the numbers for the rest of the jurisdictions at this time. I'm able to get the Thurston County numbers a few days early. But one of the things that I did last month and that I'll do again this month is to reach out to the other members of WASAC and ask, is Thurston County really unique? And I really didn't get a response last month, but I'll try a little better to pursue it, because again, every economist that I've listened to or talked to all said that we should be down, and we're not. So it is a very, I've been saying since March that this is a time of uncertainty, and this just kind of really brings that home.
Has there any, just to follow up on that, have you heard anything that suggests that the state of Washington is reevaluating its position or changing? Last I heard, they got furlough program in place, and that's being scaled, and they're looking at cutting their revenue forecast. I mean, has there been any suggestion that they're rethinking the state's position at this point?
No,
okay.
None.
All right.
Commissioner Edwards, I see you waving the white flag.
Yeah, I'm about due to surrender. Say, just a couple of comments from Commissioner Mentzer's questions is one issue when you look at Snohomish County is there's an aircraft carrier group that's moving out that's been there for quite a while. That always has a detrimental impact on their budget. But the main thing that I've been harping on here for months is the uniqueness of Thurston County is we had no retail outlet in comparison to so many other counties. And that's why this point of destination has made such a big impact on us. So I'll just let it go at that for now, but I'm looking forward to the additional information that we're going to get from Robin. But thank you.
So thank you, Robin. It's intriguing. It's puzzling. It's exciting. We wait for more information from you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ramiro, anything further on that topic?
You know, if there's anything this pandemic has taught us and show us, the predictability of anything that we are planning to do is out the window, whether it's negative, positive, or otherwise. And this just proves again, you know, when I heard the new numbers, I'm scratching my head because it really does not make sense. But again, hopefully we can get additional detail and we can further explore and dive in next week when we have the budget sessions. More to come.
And just like other professions, you plan for the worst, so you're not caught unaware, but you hope for the best. And so I'm glad we're proactive about that.
I guess that will be the silver lining of the whole conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Public testimony.
I didn't have anything, but just before this meeting started this morning, Mr. Pettit approached me and he made a comment that perhaps we have not put the agenda for this meeting online. I confirmed, we posted last Friday as well as this morning as we continue to change. So I'm not sure where that is going. So you may receive public testimony this afternoon on those terms, that perhaps the meeting that you're holding this afternoon may be illegal. But again, I have confirmed that we have posted the agenda.
So we're gonna have the meeting at 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay. And now we're down to commissioner items. Commissioner Menster, have you anything for the good of the order, sir?
Yes, this may be a question for Ramiro. So I would like to know whether we have a county policy that would cover a commissioner seeking to obtain personal information of a county employee to further a political investigation. If we do, I would like that policy to be reviewed with the board so that we're all crystal clear about it. And if we don't, I'd like to make a motion that we develop an appropriate policy that would protect our employees' personal information and then have that brought back to the board for discussion and consideration.
To answer the question, I'm not aware of any particular policy related to that. But if the board directs me to draft the policy in those terms, I'll be more than happy to follow suit.
I would so make a motion.
Second.
I understand what you just said, but describe it again for me. A county employee, a policy regarding a county employee releasing or seeking information?
A commissioner seeking information about a county employee for a non-personnel related purpose, whatever that might be.
And personal information?
Yep, from a personnel file.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's get on it.
Thank you.
It just really caught me by surprise. Commissioner Edwards, anything for the good of the order?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I heard you. I think you said no, sir.
Yeah.
You have nothing to add?
I'm letting you off the hook early.
My speaker's not working, Mr. Chair. My computer is malfunctioned.
Yeah.
You've never heard that, have you, before, Commissioner Menzer?
No, that two surprises back to back. Oh my God. All right. Ramiro, anything for the good of the order?
No, sir. I'm good.
Wow. All right. Then this meeting is adjourned and we'll be back at 2 o'clock. Sans Commissioner Menzer for our BoCC meeting. Enjoy your time off.
So I think Commissioner Edwards is going to be reading all those motions this afternoon.
Uh-huh.
Sorry about that. Leading the pledge.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned. See you soon. Bye-bye.